Hey, Steve, I'm really great, man.
Excellent. Thank you for doing this. What a time of year for this album to launch. It's about time, and it certainly is. How much of a labour of love has this been?
This has been a long time coming because I was dealing with so many different emotions over the last 20-something years with the death of my partner, Bernard Edwards, and then Luther Vandross and Tony Thompson, all the original Chic guys. And then I've survived 2 bouts of cancer. Just so many horrible things. Now my mom has Alzheimer's. These are things that are so un-rock and roll to me. These are things that I never thought would have anything to do with my life. I thought I'd just be the typical guy. You get drunk, blah, blah, the nice romantic rock and roll passing. But no, it's been a life that's completely different. And for the first time, I said to myself, why don't I make an album that just makes me really feel good and talk about the things that I'm seeing around me and just do disco. Yeah. just like, and not worry about the fact that it's not 1970 something, and not worry about the fact that disco's out of vogue or anything like that. To just be an artist and be pure to myself.
Do you feel you're at a point in life where you're enjoying it more now than maybe in the Chic heyday of the late 70s?
I can't tell because we had a pretty damn good time.
The bits you can remember.
Yeah, the bits that I can remember, exactly.
I mean, the thing is about your music, and I think you kind of undersell it a little bit there when you say it's not in vogue anymore. You've been a pioneer of dance music because the thing about your work is it's instantly recognisable, whether it be a Chic hit from 78, whether it be your work on Diana Ross's album or Bowie's album, whether it be Daft Punk, Get Lucky. So who inspired you? Because disco and dance music was quite in its infancy when you started. Which artists and what genre of music inspired you to make those sounds?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what happened. It was a complete metamorphosis. I was a total jazz junkie. As a matter of fact, my teacher called me a jazz snob. But one night, my girlfriend at the time, she and I walked into a disco, and the 3 records that played in a row were Donna Summer, Love to Love You Baby, The Village People first single called San Francisco, and then another record by Eddie Kendricks from The Temptations called Girl, You Need a Change of Mind. And these 3 songs went on for about an hour and a half because the DJ had 2 turntables, and we had never seen that before. Where the music never ended. It was just continuous music. Because up until that time, DJs would have 1 turntable or they used the jukebox, and you'd have to wait for the records to go, the platter to go, and then stop at G went clunk and this big mechanical thing. But this was completely smooth, sexy music. And I just noticed that the audience were Black, Latino, gay, straight, men, women, everybody, and they were all dancing together in this one beautiful kind of collective. And all of a sudden, it was like, okay, throw jazz out the window. I am no longer a snob. I want to play Love to Love You Baby in San Francisco.
The thing is about your audience as well now, it's not just the people who were there in the 70s, is it? You've got a whole generation of fans that have discovered your music, A, through the new artists that you're working with, B, through the fact that your back catalogue is available at the touch of a button. Is that quite humbling as well, the fact that you've got people who are in the teens coming to your gig and admiring your music?
It's really interesting to me to have young girls with signs with your name on them. I'm looking at them going, I'm old enough to be your grandfather.
You're cool, Niall, you're cool, isn't it?
It's like, so it's great.
When you've got a catalogue such as yours, how do you decide what to put in a live show? Do you just mix it up? Because there's obviously all the tracks you wrote with Sister Sledge and Diana Ross. You couldn't perform everything that you've ever done. You'd be there all night. How do you decide what goes onto the set list?
We just take a chance. I know it's rather unprofessional, but a lot of times I'll just say to the audience, how many people are seeing Chic for the first time? And if they put up their hands, and it's about 70% of the audience, because you can tell 70%, 60%, 50%.
Sure.
And it seems like most people are seeing us for the first time. I gotta play Freak Out. I gotta play We Are Family. I gotta play He's the Greatest Dancer. I gotta, you just gotta do it. I gotta do Let's Dance. Gotta do Get Lucky. But every now and then we'll play at a venue where we know that they've seen us a few times. And we started playing things like Why by Carly Simon, because in the UK, why does your love hurt so much?
Great song.
People go bananas. They can't believe it. And in France, we do Spacer. People go crazy. In Germany, we did Spacer. They were blown away. We did Lady. We did Lady, Hear Me Tonight.
That's the other thing. Yeah, people don't realise just how many songs of yours are being sampled by other people.
Yeah.
To anyone that doesn't know the story then, because we're talking about your new generation and of fans and people who weren't there when Chic were formed, and you've already mentioned the much missed Bernard Edwards. How did that partnership come about? Take us back to how you two met.
Bernard and I, it was strange, man. I guess it was destined to happen. It was fate, because my girlfriend at the time, I was about 17 years old, and I was living with herself and her mom and her little brother. My mom had already moved to California, and her mother said to me one day, she says, man, there's this cat who works down at the post office with me, and he seems real cool. I know he plays bass. I've never heard him play, but he's just got a vibe about him. I mean, my girlfriend's mom was like super duper cool. So she got his phone number for me. I called him up and I says, oh, wow, man, how you doing, man? Like, I want to put together a band, that's like a cross between Fairport Convention and like a little Mahavishnu, man, maybe a little Santana thrown in, a little Country Joe and the Fish, man. And Bernard looked at the phone and he says, yo, my man, lose my number. Click, and hung up the phone on me. Fast forward to about 2 weeks later, we're doing what we call a pickup gig. And pickup gigs are just, you don't really know anybody. You just get there on the gig and you make $25 or something. So I get there, and the band was pretty good, but somehow the bass player and myself just were natural leaders, and we took over, and we were calling out the chord changes to the songs, and we were calling out the songs to the musicians. And that night, at the end of the night, he said to me, man, every gig I get on, I'm going to recommend you as a guitar player. And I said, you won't believe this. I was thinking the exact same thing about you. Every gig that I get, I'm going to recommend you as the bass player. So we started talking. We were hanging out. We were having a good time. One day, he and I were going to rehearsal, and we were on the train together, the subway. And my girlfriend's mom gets on the train. Now, of course, I don't think she knows this guy at all. And she comes walking towards me, as she should. We live in the same apartment. And she walks past me and goes to Bernard and says, so I see you cats finally met. And he looks at me and goes, that was you?
Wow. And, well, a special relationship was formed from that moment onwards, wasn't it? I mean, how would you work together? Would you work and jam and write together in the same room? Would you go away and do things independently and then merge the ideas? How did that partnership work?
Everything. There was nothing that was sacred. And that's why our partnership was so fantastic. I've had insomnia since I was a five-year-old child. And Bernard had kids and a family and the whole bit. My output was extraordinary. So I would write most of the songs. I would, just like, he'd come to rehearsal the next day and it's like 20 new songs. But what Bernard's amazing contribution to my songwriting is that he was the greatest editor that you could imagine. So the first record he and I wrote together was a song called Dance, 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 Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. And I had written what was, I thought, the greatest hook in the world, which went, I just dance, 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 dance all of the time. I just dance, dance, dance all the time. And Bernard just looked at me and went, why don't we just go dance, 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 dance? He said, that's basically what we want to say, right? You don't have to tell him you just dance all the time, because once you just go dance, 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 it's the same. And I looked at him and went, wow, that's genius. Like, get rid of all of that other stuff and just say dance, dance, dance. That's all we care about.
Do you still feel him with you now, today, when you're performing and when you're writing?
Here's the way I do it. I sort of channel him. I say to myself, okay, I write this. I know that Nile Rodgers, is a wacky guy. I write way too much. Now I have to pretend to be Bernard Edwards. I have to channel Bernard Edwards and go, hey man, why'd you write that? Why'd you do this? Why do you have all those lyrics in there? Why are you doing this? You know, if you got to say that, why don't you just get right down to the core of what you mean? Just say this. So it's very difficult playing the role of Bernard Edwards, but I think I know it best. I think I know it better than his own children. That when you work with someone so closely for such a long time, your relationship with them is a working relationship. He was not my dad or my uncle. He's my partner and my friend. And the dynamic between us is just so powerful that I'd have a pretty good idea of what he would say.
Niall, I really could speak to you all day. I'm gutted, time's running out. Thank you so much for your time, and it's been a real pleasure to catch up with you.
Same here, bro. I hope I wasn't too long-winded. Thanks so much,
Not at all, and I hope to meet you in person soon. Take care, my friend. Have a great Christmas.
All right, man. Cheers. Same to you.
Bye-bye.